Hi, Greece and Rome people. I want to talk to you about something that you've probably thought about yourself at one point or another if you're interested in this channel. And that's the Iliad, Homer's Iliad. What's the Iliad about? It's obvious, right? It's all anybody talks about in relation to the epic. The war, the Trojan War. It's true. That is the backdrop of the epic, but it's not what the epic's about. And how do we know that? Well, that's jumping ahead. Is it about Achilles? No. Well, kinda. And that's the hint. But before I tell you what the Iliad's about, and I think I could do so in a somewhat objective way, let me go about it kind of from the reverse and say what type of thing it is in relation to the rest of the epic. The epic consists of sentences, of lines, and the ends of sentences don't always coincide with the ends of lines. So there's an interplay between the line scheme and the sentence scheme. And so it matters where words are within both lines and within sentences. It matters where words are within sentences from the standpoint of syntax, how the words relate with each other to generate meaning. It matters where the words are on a given line and on lines in relation to each other for emphasis, which is a stylistic concern. So I want to talk a little bit about both of those before I tell you what the Iliad's about. Because by telling you that what I'm about to tell you, you'll understand why I can say that it's pretty objective that Homer intended, scary word, I know, for this particular thing to be what his epic is about. And let's not forget, about is a word that doesn't come from Latin, doesn't come from Greek. It comes from Anglo-Saxon, and which is Old English, which is what our language, what the English language is originally built from, and then you have accretions from Rome, from France, etc. So what am I getting at? In other videos, I've talked about the importance of understanding grammar, the way words fit together in sentences. And again, I know it's, here I go again, but right there is the video that is most popular when it comes to that stuff. You might want to go watch it and then come back to this point. But it's important to understand that syntax, syn meaning together, with or together, tax coming from a verb meaning to arrange, the way you do tactics in military contexts, for example. And so it's the arrangement of words within a sentence. And so you might think that if, as is true, the ancient Greek language, as is true with Latin, lends itself to artistic manipulation based upon capabilities provided to the poet, to the writer in general, to the singer in general, to put words anywhere he or she wants within a given sentence, yes, but more significantly, a given line of poetry. And so if you understand that in the case of Homer, for example, he's dealing with a meter, a single meter called dactylic hexameter. Homer's meter is a single meter throughout the entire epic, 15,000 plus lines of the Iliad, 12,000 plus lines of the Odyssey. That right away should tell you something. The Greeks were not strangers to mathematical ideas. Very famously, Pythagoras, but also going back to the Mesopotamians and the Egyptians. And so you would think that if you have a genre of verbal narrative with a consistently uniform way of arranging words on lines, that if you understand the way that that is done, you can understand how the artist might take advantage of it. Well, let's do that. For now, I'll just say that there's a certain number of beats on each line. And because there's only that number of beats on each line, you can imagine there could be a correspondence between the poet and the audience and how they allow words to coincide with that number of beats in such a way that there's a what philosophers call intersubjective relationship between poet and audience member when it comes to the significance of where things fall on given lines. And that's definitely the case with Homer. Most famously, and I did an entire talk at San Diego State a few years ago that I transcribed into my first book, Before You Read Homer, which you may be interested to look at. I never assign it to students, or at least not so far, but you might find it interesting. It's the appendix of that book. Maybe one day I'll just do a reading of that. Maybe I think I will. I think somewhere I have the recording of it from when I did the presentation, and if so, I will certainly put it on this channel. But anyway, and if I do, there we go. It'll be over there. Okay. So this is so in Homer's case, you would think that if he could put words anywhere he wants on whatever lines he wants, that above all else, the very first word that he utters might have some significance. In English, you can't do that. Here's what I mean. Say I were to say, I'm going to talk to you right now about a certain emotion. I cannot start that sentence unless maybe I'm Milton by saying something like, emotion, a certain one I look forward to telling you about, or the like. In other words, in English, we expect that if I'm going to say that I'm going to say something, I'm going to start with I, I'm going to go to the saying, and then to the thing I say. The subject, the verb, and the object of the verb, which is really adverbial if you think about it, and that'll be another video maybe. Homer, on the other hand, is able to put the emotion in that sentence wherever he wants, and if it's important enough, he'll put it at the very beginning of the sentence. And it is for Homer. Spoiler, the very beginning of the Iliad, the very first word of all of Western verbal narrative, at least that is extant, is a word for an emotion. It's very important to know that. So when we ask what the Iliad is about, the answer is an emotion. Not the Trojan War, not Achilles, but an aspect, spoiler, of Achilles. That is an emotion of Achilles. An emotion that he has in the sense that he is having something how. Now we have to bring Spanish into the picture. Think about the contrast between ser and estar. Okay? Ser has to do with being in a sense that is understood to be at least relatively permanent. And estar, estoy, whatever, means I am at this moment. Okay? So not permanently, but, and not even really semi-permanently usually, but temporarily. Okay? Well, that's what we're talking about here at the beginning of the Iliad. There's an emotion that is understood to be a part of what Achilles is, not in the ser sense, but in the estar sense. Okay? And so he possesses this emotion, and the object of the protagonist, Achilles, throughout the Iliad, despite the fact that he's missing for most of it, and that's another maybe video even, but certainly something to talk about separately, is to overcome this emotion so that it doesn't become a ser emotion, if you will. A permanent one. One that is associated necessarily with who Achilles is and always has been, and always will be. And what is that emotion? Anger.